So my name is Kate Natafgi. I'm the director of the Maryland Office of Home Energy Programs. We are the LIHEAP grantee for the state of Maryland through the Maryland Department of Human Services. In addition to the LIHEAP grant, we at OHEP administer several additional grants. So we administer the MEET program, which is the LIHEAP program in the state of Maryland, along with our gas arrearage retirement assistance program, which is the arrearage component of our MEEP, of our LIHEAP program. We also administer the Maryland State Electric Universal Service Program, um, which is our electric-based assistance grant in the state of Maryland. Additionally, we also, as a counter to that EUSP grant, we have an electric arrearage retirement program, which helps customers catch up on past due electric bills specifically. Um, in addition to that, OHEP also administers the low-income household water assistance program. So the LIWAP program, which uh, is set to end in March of this year because we're participating in the no cost extension period. We also offer several other programs, signups for weatherization and energy efficiency programs through our partner agency or our partner department, the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. So they administer the weatherization component of the MEET program, as well as several other energy efficiency programs through other state agencies such as the Department of the Environment, that and our I believe there's the national component. You can tell that I'm really focused on energy assistance rather than some of the energy efficiency components. We also give our clients an opportunity to sign up for an additional utility run program, which is the Universal Service Protection Program that provides customers um, with additional protections during the chillier months of the year. Uh, Helps them if a customer is able to make a minimum monthly payment to the utility that's previously agreed upon, then they can avoid service disconnection um, under that program. That program also allows us the opportunity to assist our customers in getting restored without having certain fees, so we can get certain fees waived for somebody who is a participant in that program. So, the Office of
Mhm.
Home Energy Programs, we do a lot of things. We have Maryland is one of, I'm very proud to be a Marylander when I start talking about our programs because I think that Maryland has one of the most robust social safety nets when it comes to energy and water assistance. I feel that we had the biggest impact because Maryland for much of 2020 and into 2021 we had termination moratoriums. In addition to that, we also had several. The Maryland Public Service Commission had implemented several additional layers of protection. So, which several of which actually expired this previous spring, which is why we're seeing that increase in disconnections. Um, so what we saw was, I do think that we saw a significant increase in the number of people who were the majority of our assistance was going towards alleviating that heat or eat dichotomy, especially when we were able to actually get assistance to those customers as opposed to people who just never applied. Because that's part of what we saw as well with COVID was, even though there was an increase in the financial need, as we saw people being laid off and we saw businesses closing and people being sent home, we didn't see the massive increase in applications that one would naturally assume would happen in that situation. And that was partially due to, those moratoriums as well as several pieces of funding sources that were made available through federal grants as well as state level programs as well. So that's where we saw the biggest impact of energy assistance grants, was eliminating that food or other bills, that bill cycling behavior. That's where we saw the biggest impact, for those that we were able to reach. So actually, Maryland is another one of those states, where the Department of Human Services had an older online application system. I'm trying to be very nice about how to put it. I'm a millennial, so it definitely looked like it was contemporary with me and my birth, back when we had the My DHR system. Um, but yes, Maryland had was another one of those states that had an antiquated online application system. And we were that the department had been intending to make the transition. And I feel, though I wasn't really privy to those conversations, I feel that COVID was definitely an impetus, because in the midst of the COVID pandemic, that is when Maryland implemented our MD Think consumer platform. So we were another one of those states that, as in-person opportunities were limited, we shifted to a more online application model. And that's had it's been a mixed bag, because with any implementation of any major computing system, especially one that's customer facing, and with any implementation of any system, there's going to be some element of chaos. um, there's transitions are rocky. So there's fine tuning on the tail end. And we've been seeing the results of that fine tuning over the last several years. Oh, we definitely get deep into the nitty gritty with our customers. Where it's a regular part of our service delivery process, to, as I mentioned earlier with the Universal Service Protection Program, it's regular part of our regular course of business to leverage participation in that program to help customers, not have to pay deposits or certain other reconnection fees, and advocate on their part for that program. And in Maryland, we're often, we're the ones who are negotiating with the utility to have service restored, especially within a timely manner. And whenever possible, placing holds on accounts. I'm not sure if that's unique in Maryland versus other LIHEAP programs, but we have a 55-day electricity extension that's available. That's one of the key tools in our toolbox, that can help us prevent those utility emergencies. Well, resolve them immediately by providing an additional 55 days in order for us as the energy assistance agency to process that customer's application and get them their benefits. And Maryland's had historically a wonderful relationship with our utility companies. We work very closely with them, and collaborate with them extensively to, serve our customers and get positive outcomes. We've actually in recent years implemented an application process with two of our major utilities, where now those utilities are collecting OHEP applications over the phone, and transferring them to us, and helping us identify those customers who are off service or have a termination notice. And while that person is speaking with a customer service representative, they're able to fill out their energy assistance application. And we've seen quite a bit of success in, intervening in potential emergencies through those partnerships. Absolutely. And I think that the largest trend that we saw coming out of COVID was um, a real decrease in the number of applications, but an increase in the number of recipients that we had at applying for our programs. That's been pretty consistent since then. And we've been seeing our participation rates and our approval rates increase year over year, whereas prior to COVID, we had been seeing over like a 10-year period our application rates going down, our denial rates going up. Whereas now in the post-COVID era, we've seen the inverse of that. And fiscal year 23 was probably the first fiscal year where we experienced a true return to normalcy, and a return to collection activities with our utilities, which, that has been, now that I mention it, one of the things that we have seen coming out of the COVID era is, a sharp increase in the number of disconnections and the number of customers who are coming to us either with an active termination notice or who are currently disconnected. We're seeing a lot more of that now than we had in prior years. I can't really speak too terribly extensively to the pre-COVID era, because actually I joined the state of Maryland in 2020. I was in the door for about a month, and then we went home because COVID. So, but those are the overall trends that we've been seeing since COVID. So there are considerable differences throughout the state of Maryland. Um, our primary, kind of the largest bulk of our heating assistance goes towards utility heating, so either electricity or natural gas. But there is still a substantial need throughout the state for bulk fuels of all kinds. And you're absolutely right. There's definitely regional variations as we start moving into, in central Maryland where we're located and where I'll admit a disproportionate amount of our attention goes as Marylanders. Um, in our central Maryland, we see that primarily customers are heating with utility gas or electricity. Now, as we move further and further out towards Western Maryland, the Eastern Shore, Southern Maryland, that's where we see a larger mix of bulk fuels. Even so far out as I'm always shocked every year when I see the handful of applications from far Western Maryland, Garrett and Allegheny counties, where customers are heating their homes with coal in 2023. I was very shocked the first time I heard that, and it always kind of blows me away because you just don't think about coal as a modern heating source. But yes, we see a lot of distribution of different heating sources throughout our state. We help on the EUSP side with our electric program, the state program. We assist statewide with the electricity. And the MEET program, we are throughout the entire state, assisting with whatever the customer's heating source is. Funding is definitely always a challenge, and will continue to be a challenge as we look towards the future. And there's, we're currently in Maryland facing one of the largest rate cases in recent history, where we're looking at some very significant increases in utility rates, both for natural gas and electricity. In addition, we're also seeing a significant increase in our bulk fuel, the pricing of bulk fuel, heating oil, propane, those coal customers too. So as we're seeing energy prices continuously increasing, the need for additional funding is more apparent than ever. And really reflecting back on the COVID era, the supplemental funding that we received under the LIHEAP program was phenomenal for expanding our reach, and significantly making an impact on customers' utility bills. Because of some of the supplemental funding that we received during the COVID era, we were able to, historically, Maryland has addressed roughly 65% of a customer's utility or heating expenses for the year. Whereas during the COVID era, we were looking at 85 to 90%. So we were, yeah, that additional funding, we in Maryland made it work, and really, really made it work for our clients. So yeah, I think, additional funding is always going to be a need. And I think that, yeah, that's one of the biggest struggles that we've had, and that I'm having as the new director for this program, is making sure that our benefits are large enough to be worth it, really. While we don't have the terribly arduous application, and we're constantly trying to minimize our requirements and documentation and ease the administrative burden on our clients. Uh, we are also at times issues with still getting documentation, and and so while people essentially take time out of their lives to complete our application, to gather their documents and their paperwork and finish their application, you know, I, as the director, want to make sure that the benefits are worth it for all of that energy and that time, because I know that those are things that are massive challenges for the communities that we serve. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be terribly original, but yeah, funding is always going to be a continued need. I think that there's also some things that we can look at on a federal level, potentially some of the documentation requirements that could be, potentially eased or relaxed, when we're looking kind of in the long term, and again, towards client outcomes, customer outcomes. I think that there's some progress that could be made there, but I know that, here in Maryland, we're also constantly looking to streamline our processes and make our programs way easier to access than they ever have been. And I'm so excited because in January of this coming year, January 2024, Maryland will be implementing categorical eligibility and automatic enrollment for recipients of uh, the SNAP program, uh, the TANF program, SSI, and certain means tested veterans benefits. So I am ecstatic at that, and cannot wait until we implement that. Something I've noticed when visiting our local agencies, it, more of our workers than not have thank you cards from clients. My team at State OHEP, we also, often are receiving thank you cards. I think that the impact and the effect, the life-saving effect of the LIHEAP grant just cannot be understated or overstated. It's always understated when we're talking about it because, you know, the way that we've structured the LIHEAP grant federally and in Maryland, it truly provides that safety net that saves lives every year. Every year Maryland assists tens of thousands of households that faced an immediate utility termination. But we also see thousands of households that have, had their service restored, and we were able to, potentially save lives there. It's probably one of the reasons that I'll admit sometimes I take my job a little bit too seriously, um, which I understand that that's a little weird for a state director to say, but the life-saving nature of this program is not lost on myself, and I don't think that it's lost on our customers. Um, and there's not, again, it just can't be overstated just how much the LIHEAP program does to save lives every year.